Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? Really like that. You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to our final edition this week of the Film Guy Network. It's been a great week here on the network. We have grown tremendously, crossing over 22,000 subscribers within the next coming days, so we appreciate the support there. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, review, and all that good stuff. It is a loaded show for you guys, as we say around here every Thursday. Last show, best show. It's a great one tonight. I wanted to start with this, though, because I do believe what is going on right now over the next 4 days is perhaps or arguably the best sporting event of the year, at least from a let's not get any work done, let's just watch this the rest of the week. And it's the Masters, right? Augusta National is the premier golf event of the year. It is arguably one of the premier sporting events that we have available, particularly in American sports. And it's one of those things where it's like people will tell you all the time, there's nothing like it, you have to go, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing like it, you have to go. Now, Augusta, unlike some of these things we're going to talk about tonight that fit this category of there's nothing like it, you have to go, Augusta might be the hardest place to go to, right? Augusta is like notoriously impossible to get into in terms of being able to see this event. There are years and years along waiting periods unless you have thousands and thousands of dollars or you are someone who's a millionaire. It is almost impossible to get to this event. But it got us thinking, man, like, there's only a handful of these types of things in the sporting world, right? I don't think there is an NFL experience like this. I think when we talked about it in the chat this morning, the first thought was the Super Bowl. But the Super Bowl has a very different feel, a very different vibe, a very different taste every single year. It is a different event. It is a different promotional event every single year. It's very unlike, the Masters, right? So I don't think the NFL has one of these. I think baseball has several venues like this. I think, people will tell you there's nothing like it until you go with Wrigley. There's nothing like it unless you experience it at Fenway. But outside of that, there's not like an event or a time period of the year where it's like, hey, you have to, in your lifetime, check this off of your bucket list. Basketball, I don't believe, has one of these. Maybe certain players where, at least in my experience, where I felt compelled that I had to see at least one LeBron James game before he retired. And that was my feeling. You might have a feeling about a specific player that resonates with you like that, but most of these sports don't have one of these. College football, I feel, does have one of these, and it is one specific game every single year. And for my lifetime, it has always been something that people speak about as, hey, that is a bucket list item. You must go. And it's also one of these events, gentlemen, where you watch it on TV and every single person watching the event on TV wishes they were there. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think the Super Bowl connotes this, right? A lot of people like to watch the Super Bowl at home, watching the commercials, but every single time you see the Masters on television, you want to be there. Every single time you see the Rose Bowl on television, you want to be there. So that was kind of the talking point I came to today watching the Masters. Like, God dang, first of all, aesthetically pleasing. Every time I watch the Masters, I'm like, God dang, that place looks beautiful, right? Birds chirping, no squirrels, right? Mm-hmm. Just beautiful. Weather always, it's raining like hell today in Georgia. Still look beautiful on television today out there at Augusta. I feel the same exact way about the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is one of those bucket list items you gotta go see. Unfortunately, I wasn't covering Georgia the last time they played in it, but nonetheless, one of those events that is kind of matching with the Masters, although it's a one-day thing.
Yeah, too, the Rose Bowl has the build-up with it because they have the Rose Bowl parade, much like the Masters has this big build-up with, like, even the practice rounds, the par 3 contests as well. Like, there's a massive build-up from Monday until Thursday of, like, the Masters tournament is here. So I agree with that one. Maybe if UCLA doesn't back out of this game, you at least get to go to the venue.
Yeah. I think the other thing that kind of parallels with the Masters and the Rose Bowl, and it makes these things very, very special, it's never a bad product. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's never a bad game in the Rose Bowl. The last bad game I can think about is when Christian McCaffrey beat the shit out of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Like that's really it. And even that game was fun to watch because that dude was about to go for 500 total yards. You know what I mean? It was still beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. The Masters like this always lives up, always a good event to watch, a compelling sporting event to watch. And I just don't know how many more of the examples of this we have in sport. Can you think of any?
I'd say Wimbledon and tennis. I don't know how many people actually watch tennis, but my mom is a very avid tennis watcher. So Wimbledon was always on the TV anytime it was going on. And so for me, I know how big of a deal it is. Like
that's the grass courts, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it is a bucket list of all bucket lists for anybody that watches tennis or even appreciates sports. I would say, like, I would love to go to Wimbledon. I think it just has a great lore around it, and it's just like the biggest tennis event every single year.
How do you make grass that hard?
I don't know.
You got to keep cutting it down low.
Keep cutting it down low and drying it out, but it's green as shit.
Yeah,
so
it is.
That's an interesting thing. Might have to learn some more about Wimbledon. Wimbledon, a good suggestion. How about the Daytona 500? And I put Daytona in for this because it's a NASCAR race. Like, it's probably going to be compelling. Granted, there are a bunch of cautions at Daytona, but that if there's a caution on the track and you're there, you got to see some pretty gnarly shit go down. You know what I mean? So that's an intriguing aspect to this. The people watching at Daytona would just be absolutely pristine, only matched by one other event in terms of people watching.
Yeah, not a big NASCAR guy, but I would go to the Daytona 500 just to witness it.
I went to Atlanta Motor Speedway last summer, and it lived up to the hype in terms of people watching. But not as great as WrestleMania. No,
I was going to say WrestleMania, obviously the venue changes every year, but from these place of like you have to go there to understand how hype this is. I was watching it on the TV with my roommate and he was like, I don't get it. And I was just like, you just have to be there to understand. So it's I went to
WrestleMania when it was in Atlanta.
Which one? Which one?
I don't know. The Rock was there. This is probably like 2014, 2015.
That was WrestleMania 28, I believe.
We got a wrestling nut over here. But the reason I marked down WrestleMania as the greatest people watching experience in the entire world, period, point blank, there's nothing better. Because there's only one place on the earth where you get to see 45-year-old obese men walk around with wrestling like championship belts. I sat behind there's fanboys. I've seen fanboys before, but this was unlike anything I've ever seen. He was strictly a Randy Orton fanboy, because that's the thing about wrestling. You get these pockets of fandom, right? Where it's not just I'm a wrestling fan. Yeah. I'm a wrestling fan that lives and dies by Randy Orton's Windfall record. And when Randy Orton came out to his Randy Orton soundtrack, the dude in front of me stood up on his chair. Because Randy Orton does this thing where he stands on top of the ring ropes and does like this one and looks up at the sky like, oh, look at me. And he does it at all four corners. This gentleman stood up and down on his chair and did one of these, about 5'8", 305 pounds, like a fire hydrant standing in front of me. Yes, the people watching at that event, unmatched.
It's the best. It's the best. Someone told me that wrestling is just theater for straight men.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I couldn't assume they're all straight, but I get what you're saying.
All right, a
lot of tights out there.
I didn't come up with it, but
no, I mean, anyways, any other suggestions? Some people in the chat talking about the World Cup. Yeah. That would be elite. I think the World Cup is very specific, though. Got to have a game that you're at where the home country's playing versus another elite world power in soccer.
Yeah, I would say Kentucky Derby was also on my list, just because everybody gets dressed up for it. All the ladies are in their hats. It's a big betting event as well. Like, there's everybody. I don't think a lot of people watch horse racing, but when the Kentucky Derby's on, everybody at least feels a little compelled, like, all right, I got to see what happens. I got to check it out. I got to see which horse is going to win and whatnot, just to be in the loop a little bit. I myself am not a horse racing fan.
Yeah, so the one I came up with, it's not necessarily because the venue, it's not necessarily because when you watch it, but the atmosphere that a big fight card creates.
Yeah,
where all the celebrities come out, whether it's UFC or boxing, all celebrities come out. The months leading up to it is hype. Like, I think that's pretty unmatched in sports, and there really isn't anything like that.
If I were to do that bucket list item, I hope at that point, like, I'm a multimillionaire to where I can afford to sit close, because that's the whole vibe, right? I don't want to be sitting in the rafters.
Nah,
I would be watching it off the monitor, You know?
Yeah, I want to be able to watch it in the cage.
But definitely, I put, a big MMA card like back in the day, Cena McGregor fight would probably be insane. That would be nuts. And then the other one I put down was like an Olympics.
Yeah,
like,
Olympics for sure.
Just go, and just feel like, one thing I thought was gnarly watching was the kayaking. The one-man kayak.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. No, dude, they throw these people in like a fake river and make them like go around buoys and shit.
Yeah,
it was gnarly. So that seeing something like that would be pretty awesome. Chat's talking about the hot dog eating contest.
I would love to see that.
That's gross to me.
That's American.
I think I kind of get the gist of it watching on television.
It's disgusting to me. I can't watch it. It is horrifying.
Not into dipping buns into water, huh?
Dude, that is so gross to me.
Kool-Aid?
It's like they did it in Kool-Aid, I think.
No, one guy dips in Kool-Aid. I think the winner dips in water.
And then like
Joey Chestnut straight water.
Hearing about the prep that they do before the contest, of stretching out their stomach and stuff. It's disgusting to me.
Goats.
Joey
Chestnut's the American.
I guess
goat.
he is a goat.
Primetime Mike Tyson would have been lit. An X Games is cool.
That even still a thing?
X Games?
Yeah,
dude. I watch Winter X Games all the time.
I used to see it all the time, like for some reason, like when I was a kid, like X Games, it felt like it was always on, but nowadays I just haven't seen much of it anymore. But it's
since
cool.
They got rid of who was old buddy from MTV that used to host those things with the long dreads. Y'all remember his name?
Oh.
God, terrific host of Action Sports. I wish I could remember his name. Thought he was great at what he
You're not
did.
talking about the guy from like Ridiculousness, are you?
No, not
No. This guy had a very long career on MTV as their musical host, and then transitioned to the X Games. Sal Niscala is what the chat's saying right there.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you see a lot as much as X Games because it's all esports nowadays.
Yeah. Well, X Games has its own, like, they're off of the main ESPN channels now.
Yeah.
It's like an ESPN
it's very niche.
Plus deal.
Gotcha.
All right. Welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. An FSU starter, we're going to call him a starter, but there's some real story behind this, some real reporting to be done. Because I think when these things hit the timeline nowadays, everybody's like, FSU's in shambles. They're losing a starter. Here's what it is. People getting poached. Rosters getting poached. We told you it's going to happen. That kind of stuff. Not really with the Florida State story today. Feel like it's worth talking about. Bear Alexander wins his standoff with USC. I think that's how we're going to classify this story until told otherwise. Quinn Ewers got some jet money. Quinn Ewers got some jet money out there out at Texas, but we're going to spin the Quinn Ewers jet story about him being able to fly private jets and being paid to do so like Jackson Dart. We're going to spin that into an overall discussion about Quinn Ewers and areas for growth out there at Texas that need to be had this spring or this fall if they're going to live up to expectations. I've seen some moxie from Mike Elko as of late, and I want to talk about that tonight. And we got an SEC football coach, one of many, who's on a hot seat, and it brought us into an overall discussion pre-show of other coaches who may particularly be on the hot seat. We're going to talk about that tonight, including one of the best coaches at one of these schools in the history of their program, throwing absolute daggers at their current head coach. It is the Florida Gators. We will be talking about that tonight. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, and review. Also want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Speaking of MMA, Justin Gaethje fights this weekend. He will be the main card this week for UFC. And right now on prizepicks.com, using promo code Brooks, you can get a free square over there with Justin Gaethje for a half of a strike. So literally, if he lands a singular punch, you will have one square already filled in on Saturday night on that UFC card. So head over to prizepicks.com, use promo code Brooks. You get a 100% deposit match. Appreciate you guys being here tonight. It is a loaded one, as usual. Greedy Vance, a former transfer from Louisville, has played the last 2 seasons for Florida State and has been a participant in all 27 football games since he has been there. Started about 3 games last year at the nickel corner position. He was the presumed starter this year at Florida State. That was, however, until Earl Little Jr. transferred in from Alabama. Now, when it hit the timeline yesterday, you see the stats, 71 career total tackles, 4 interceptions, and Greedy Vance enters the transfer portal, and everybody's like, What's going on at Florida State? Why can't they handle their roster? Somebody must have poached this individual. And then you do any type of general research and you will find out, yes, Earl Little transferred there this spring. This was also a football player in Greedy Vance who hadn't established himself as the full number one even last year. They had a starter ahead of him. He was spot playing, was, again, the presumed starter before Earl Little got there. Earl Little gets there and is immediately pushing this guy for playing time, and Greedy Vance enters the portal today. So you have to, this is almost akin to NFL salary reporting. The number might say 150. What is the actual guaranteed money? Because a lot of that's dead weight that the team will be able to get rid of. When these guys hit these portals, okay, and it's breaking news and there's big, massive graphics and everybody runs to Twitter to talk about it. Well, let's do some context. Let's find some context about why. Why is that individual reporting or entering the portal? We talked about it leading up to the storylines. There's multiple reasons guys are hitting the portal in the spring. Majority of them will be hitting the portal this spring because they have lost jobs. And that's what looks to be the case here with Greedy Vance.
Florida State is in its, I mean, they're kind of in a particular position because, I mean, you view it as to like everything that happened with them, like right after the season. You know, the floodgates open with transfer portal. They have a bunch of guys declare for the NFL, and the roster already kind of looks bare bones. And we saw again what happened with them in Georgia, and it's like, doesn't look like a great product. So I think the reaction was probably more so of like, oh, they just lost a major contributor again. Like they just cannot hold on to the roster. That's another massive hit for them on the defensive side of the football. So I would say that's probably where the biggest reaction comes from. But again, like I think too, when these kids hit the transfer portal, I mean, obviously the box score is going to get put up, but there's also a bigger picture around that player than just what numbers they put in a box score.
I think people are wanting almost rosters to be poached at this point. It seems like they want chaos, at least from a fan base perspective. As long as it's not your team, you want to see just SF or, you know, ST, what is it? FSU. You want to see shit fucked up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think just if you headline read, it's going to be, oh my God, what's going on here? And like you said, a lot of people probably do want rosters to go in chaotic disarray. But I also think that this kind of has been happening for a few years now, where where teams get upgrades from certain players and others move on. Now, does it suck that Greedy Vance was a contributor for the last few seasons and Florida State fans probably got to know him as a player? Yeah, but if you have someone that your coaching staff thinks is better, it's you're not losing.
Yeah, and the reporting I saw today out of the Florida State kind of area was that this is one of their deeper position groups in the entire roster. Like
Right.
if they lose a defensive tackle this spring, whoa, hey, watch out. Because like they need everybody that they can possibly, literally every body that they can get in that room. They need as many bodies as possible. So this wasn't one of those, it seemed like, where, hey, this is a big name that hit the portal, maybe, but this isn't a big name that hit the portal like Bear Alexander. Bear Alexander was a massive, major contributor, NFL caliber football player hitting the portal. That's what the reports were. And now Bear Alexander has pulled his name out of the portal. Okay, it was reported Tuesday that Bear Alexander was expected to hit the portal or had intentions to do so. Yesterday, Bear took to Twitter to, quote, clear the air, saying he had no idea where this was coming from. Got no clue about any of this nonsense was essentially the wording. Don't know where this has come from. I'm committing to chasing a title here at USC. Have no idea where this portal information came from. Well, it took about 4 hours after Bear Alexander tweeting that yesterday for people to be like, oh, yeah, like sources are indicating they had a meeting with Lincoln Riley this morning. They convinced him to stay. Where'd it come from? Well, it came from the legitimate reporting that you were threatening to hit the portal is what it sounded like.
Yeah, I mean, I get the tweet coming out and saying, I don't know what any of this is about. I'm a Trojan through and through. Like, I get doing that to reassure fans and reassure other players and coaches and things such as that, but obviously, like the amount of smoke there was around this, like it was almost, it's the way it seemed was like it was certain that he was hitting the portal when the portal window opens, and for that to be like, oh, you know, I don't know what you're talking about. Like he obviously knows that we did kind of know what you were talking about.
I mean, the old saying is, if there's smoke, there's fire. There was a whole lot of smoke from the Bear Alexander camp leading up until it was officially announced that his name was in the portal, and then of course new information comes out and it's like, yeah, bro, like there was definitely some legitimacy to this reporting. It wasn't just that someone started a rumor of, oh, Bear Alexander wants to hit the portal.
So we talked about multiple avenues right here. By the way, Miller Moss hit it immediately with the quote tweet of never a doubt. Like,
Of course.
Never a doubt at all. And I think he was the one. I know how this works, right? He's the big name right now at USC is Miller Moss. Lincoln Riley convinces Bear Alexander to stick around, talks to his family, gets everybody happy, and keeps him on the roster. Immediately texts Miller Moss and says, hey, go pub this up, man. We make everyone know that this was never a question of any doubt. I talked about last week, and we've kind of talked about leading up to this portal about kind of three different avenues, right? Players doing the old Mexican standoff of I'm getting in the portal, you're going to give me a raise or I'm leaving. Guys hitting the portal because funds were short, right? I was promised X amount of dollars. You're coming up way short. I'm getting half of what you were promised to give me. I'm hitting the portal. Or three, the guy who lost the position battle. This is not the case with Bear Alexander, right? He's the starter there. Everybody knows that. They're one of their best, or if not the best defensive player that they have at USC. So it must be one of the two. It must be he hit the portal because he was, doing the old Mexican standoff, hostile negotiation situations, or B, they came up short on some payments and they wanted to make sure that they knew, hey, if you keep coming up short on payments, we are leaving this university. When you first heard this, what was your first inclination? Because mine was Mexican standoff.
I mean, yeah, that's what it seems like, especially, which, again, this is kind of hindsight now, especially knowing what we have read now about the situation. But, it has to feel that way, especially in this day and age of college football, of how things go and, like, the flow of the transfer portal. Now, it sucks that we kind of jump to those conclusions automatically, but kind of knowing the history and everything, like, you have to assume that that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, it felt to me a lot like, you look at the career of Bear Alexander, and he's always gone where the best opportunity is for him. And it felt like maybe necessarily he found a better opportunity at a different school, or had been getting rumblings of that, and that's why he was choosing to enter the portal, or was planning on entering it. So that's what it looked like to me.
I had a highly touted high school athletes' parents send me an article today. Article titled, "Is USC prepared for NIL floodgates opening and no NCAA restrictions?" This article is written by a young man by the name of Luca Evans. Do you remember who Luca Evans is?
He was a guy that got thrown out and revoked his credentials.
He was the guy last fall that got his credentials revoked, and I would imagine there's some people at USC's football building right now who are not very happy with Luca Evans, because this article right here, basically what I'm going to read you is a mixed bag of reporting and intel coming out of the USC NIL Collective Foundation. And basically, here's how this is working. They got a bunch of money that they're promising to people. Kids get on campus and they are not getting their money. Let me read to you right now. Okay, this primary athlete in this article is about a young man named Marcus Gallegos. Marcus Gallegos is a freshman safety that has just enrolled this past spring with the USC Trojans. Talk about how he's gained a bunch of weight, all that good stuff. Talk about how he committed to USC under a strict, or kind of under a pre-negotiated NIL package, like most do. And here's what I'm going to read to you from Luca Evans reporting. Quote, "A couple weeks into spring, though, Gallegos still hasn't received a contract offer from USC's NIL donor collective, House of Victory. This, of course, is far from the end of the world. In the recruitment process, USC, quote, stood out to Gallegos. Gallegos told Southern California News Group back in the fall because they were genuine. They didn't toss money around. They did grab Gallegos' earning potential through House of Victory at a baseline of around $75,000, his father, Sam Gallegos, said, similar to other programs recruiting his son. So $75,000 is what they agreed upon. So all good news, right? But as of now, Gallegos isn't guaranteed to receive any NIL earnings his freshman year until and unless he earns a separate endorsement deal or USC's donor collective sees enough value to give him a check. Gallegos' father told the news reporter this, quote, "The way I see it is if they're not going to give it to him now, it means they kind of don't see him as a face they can push and promote now." Guys, they promised the kid $75,000. They haven't given him any. Now, this was the only parent that was willing to go on the record. They are not the only parent and the only household at USC right now that is not getting the funds that they have been promised. This story continues. Plenty of families and parents of football players, including Sam Gallegos, are perfectly content. But several others, speaking on condition of anonymity so as not to risk playing time or negotiations, have expressed frustration with their son's NIL pay at USC. In amount, organizations of payment, or feeling valuations were made in recruitment that didn't align with their eventual earnings. Quote, "It's like a handshake," one USC parent told SCNG. "And when you handshake and it's Lincoln Riley on the other side and USC, you think to yourself, well, they got money, right? They're not going to F me over. They're good for it," right? You would think to yourself, oh, USC's good for it. You're going to get it. And then you're shocked when you don't. Now, sounds crazy, right? Sounds like USC's money stricken. They don't have the cash. They don't have the ability to pay their roster. They don't have the ability to meet the needs and the funds of the things that they have promised athletes. There are reports that Bear Alexander's apartment was stripped from him. There's all kinds of reports going on right now about how USC's money is tight. However, USC's money is not tight on the high school recruitment fund. We find this out right here in this article, right? Since the Tennessee ruling with the NCAA, USC has gone out and made promises out on the NIL front in the 2025 class, and they are very open about it. In fact, the owner and the operator of their NIL collective fund, House of Victory, is quoted in this article. After years of defensive driving behind NCAA restrictions, USC looked primed to shift into turbo. With a brand new coaching staff and a swelled House of Victory budget, the program's been on a recruiting spree in the wake of the Tennessee injunction, nabbing 10 new commits in the class of 2025 across just the last 3 weeks. The key ultimately lies in simple and easy communication. Suddenly, USC's NIL collective has full autonomy, House of Victory Executive Director Spurrier Harris said, to interact with recruits and offer them legitimate NIL contracts before they ever arrive to USC. So USC out here promising hella bags to high school kids.
So wait. So like legit contracts is what I'm hearing.
That right here. House of Victory Executive Director Spurrier Harris said to interact with recruits and offer them legitimate NIL contracts before they ever arrive at USC.
So should we not assume that the players of the past, like this kid also had a contract?
Yeah, when he committed, he had a contract for $75,000. However, it is not an employee contract. It states in this article way deep in the weeds that just because you sign some kind of contract, there's all kind of stipulations on the signees or opposite of the signees a will to kind of take away the money from you whenever they feel need. It's a performance-based contract.
So it's not like something you can go and take them to law.
Oh, no. No, there's no grounds for these kids to win.
So, like, do you think what maybe is happening is like these players are given these contracts and they just see like, oh, I come to USC, I get $75,000. Like, that's what I want. But somewhere in the contract where they're not reading, it says like, by the way, this is performance-based. So like, yes, you can get this money, but you're not just like automatically giving it to you because you go to our school.
No, I just think this is all cap. I think it's just cap is what this is from USC's NIL fund based off their actions. They continue in this article. When they visited USC, the parents said they had a meeting with USC General Manager Dave Emmerich, one of the same guys that handles NIL evaluations, and were offered an NIL evaluation through House of Victory, lower than what other programs were offering, but they chose USC in the end ultimately because of the chance to play for Riley and the comfort pitched to them an apartment for the player, a car, and a still very robust number offered. But what House of Victory offered once the player arrived was half of what they originally discussed on their visit, the parents said, and that contract was broken down into a combination of passive and active income they did not expect. According to a screenshot, this dude's got screenshots of their NIL collective fund contracts. I wonder why he got his media access cut. Dear God. They continue in this article, right? According to a screenshot of the contract provided to the Southern California News Group, the player would be paid a monthly sum for House of Victory to use his name, image, and likeness, and an additional payment in the contract hinged on a certain amount of promotional deliverables being met, such as the completion of a post on social media or a, quote, physical event appearance. And then they continue. And quickly, this is the most effed up part about this. And quickly, the apartment became more of a burden than a comfort. The player was forced to pay the rent of the apartment off his own accord from the salary of House of Victory. So, long story short, USC might tell you they got money when you're in high school, but when you get to college, you might be on the hook for a $3,000 a month apartment in the middle of Los Angeles. So good luck.
Yikes.
Holy cow.
So my question to you of this would be, obviously this is a bad look for USC. This can't be the only school this is happening at, right?
Hell no, this is not the only school this is happening at. Absolutely not. There are so many ways that these guys can get their money back. Because you're talking about a payroll. That's what we're talking about. So if I, as a business owner, not only am I constricted by the amount of money I can possibly go make, but also the income or the salary can move depending upon what I want to do. You miss meetings, there's another $1,000 into our payroll budget. So I'm saying there's an incentive to make sure these guys are getting dinged so you can still make your roster payments. So yeah, they're all getting slid. You know, you come in on $30,000 a month, whatever it is. You're a 2, and then by the spring you're a 3. Well, you are no longer making $30,000 a month. I can promise you that right now. These are sliding wages everywhere. But I have not heard of, hey man, come here, we'll give you $75,000 and an apartment. And then you get there and they're giving you $38,000 and making you pay for your apartment. That is insanity.
Ooh. What I thought was interesting too in that article was the fact that they're like, you can go volunteer and give out free food or like go to the local YMCA and volunteer.
That's how you get your payment. Yeah. You have to go either do some type of community service, and it's just one day event. You go in, you serve food to the homeless, you get a check for your NIL budget that month.
As if being a football player isn't busy enough.
I would imagine that has to do something with, making sure that this isn't direct pay for play.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right. There has to be actually some type of goods and exchange of services for this payment. So that's just a loophole, and I would imagine they're probably, you run a local camp during the summer for your hometown kids. Boom, done. Right. It for the year. Probably deals like that. So yeah, that story to me was nuts. And you know what? If they promised you money and they are not bringing you that bread, get your ass in that portal and go get it where you need to get it. Because if you're being told one thing and they don't meet the demands of why you even came there, his whole reason, and Tony Jones Jr., the whole reason Bear Alexander left Georgia is why he felt like they were lied to.
Yeah,
that's what he said. He felt like they were lied to. I would leave USC too if I felt like my money was being lied about, let alone my playing time. So there's that.
Jeez, I guess not. I guess the reason why we maybe don't know about it at other schools is because not every program has a Luka covering them.
Shout out Luka Evans, bro. Lincoln Riley probably trying to find some dirt on your ass right now. You better be living a clean life, brother. You better be living a clean life. Wow. I'm not gonna say I'd be afraid to write some shit like that, but I would be afraid to write some shit like that.
I would be afraid to write that with my name attached to it. Oh yeah, man. Heck no.
I can't believe the Gallegos parent put his name to the quotes.
Yeah, that's gonna be an awkward.
That kid's in the portal.
That sounds like some dirt you would hear like at your local high school at one of the football games of like a dad talking about like what's going on in the program. Not like an official article about a university that your son is currently enrolled in. I'm
just trying to think, like, the tax burden's one thing out there in California, right?
Oh my God, it's like 60%.
Yeah, something like that. It's about half, but the tax burden's one thing, and then I'm forecasting, or my financial advisor's forecasting a certain amount of income, and by the way, a certain amount of amenities and benefits in our salary built in. I get a free place to live, and then all of a sudden, boom, none of that is included. Like, wow, man, that would be a real tendency. I don't care how good of a coach Lincoln Riley is. Like, that's a real scary proposition.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine being 18 years old and hearing, $75,000 a year. And the reality is it's a quarter of that after taxes. And if you're only getting half originally, so.
Man, like if you're paying $3,000 for an apartment that you have and you're getting like $36,000, that's your entire salary that you're getting from that school going straight to rent.
Absolutely nuts. I would be very, very cautious if I were one of those 10, 20, 25 commits. That's all I'm going to say. I would be talking to my future teammates. I would be saying, hey, is it really like this? Is the money really like this? Because they're promising me X, Y, and Z. Are they meeting demands with you? And when they get a resounding no, well, we might need to be having some real conversations.
Absolutely.
All right. On to our next story, which, speaking of money, Quinn Ewers got a jet, boys.
What?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Quinn Ewers got that Jackson Dart money out here flying around in the jet. That's all cool. But we don't really. We already did the Aaron Murray talking about how much damage he would have done with a private jet. We've already done the quarterbacks got private jets now in college football with Jackson Dart's story. So what I really want to do is talk about the expectations for PJ Man right here in Quinn Ewers, because Quinn Ewers has a tremendous amount of pressure on him, you would imagine, right? Not only from a NFL draft perspective, this is year 4 on a 5-star that was supposed to be a 3-and-done guy. I believe at one point Quinn Ewers was the highest rated consensus quarterback in the history of the rankings.
Yeah, he was for, I think,
an extended period of time, basically until the Elite 11. And then they bumped him because Cade Klubnik won it. So there, and that's a big rankings boost because, you know, I don't know. Do we have to get into this? Elite 11 and 24/7 Sports have a contract together. They are mutually beneficial. Okay, so they get private access when we go out there. When we go out there this year, 247 guys will be able to get onto the field. We'll be out in the commoners section. So there's that, right? But anyways, so there's some correction of rankings that go on that week, and Quinn Ewers fell off. But this is supposed to be like a 3-and-done, highest rated kid ever, tremendously talented football player coming back for year 4 at Texas. And again, tremendous amount of expectations, not only on Quinn, but on the football program as a whole. They have national title expectations this year everywhere in that building, from the coaching staff to the players to the fan base to the boosters. They have national title expectations in their first year in the SEC. And here's the problem for Quinn, and here's what I want to talk about. There is a very specific area of growth for Quinn that needs to happen, and it's deep ball accuracy and deep ball efficiency and just the ability to throw the ball down the field. And the real problem, before we get into the stats about how bad he was last year at this, because he might have been one of the worst in Power 5 football at this. I don't know if you have the total rankings, but he lost, obviously, Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. Now, yes, they replaced them with Isaiah Bond out of Texas, so that's kind of your Xavier Worthy replacement, even though he's not Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy's a 10-flat guy. Isaiah Bond's a 10-4-8 guy, so a little bit different of a skill set. I would say Bond may be a little bit better of an all-around football player, but you can't teach God-given speed that Xavier Worthy had, especially when we're talking about deep balls, right? Being able to get on top of defenses. No one did it better last year than Xavier Worthy. Everybody knows about A.D. Mitchell's ability to win the ball in the air down the field. Yet Quinn Ewers was one of the worst in the country last year at deep ball accuracy, was he not, Jay Will? You have the stats for me, right?
Yeah, it was very, very bad. And this is coming from PFF, their advanced stats that they have. So Ewers on passes over 20-plus yards last season, he completed 16 out of 47 passes, which was a 34% completion percentage for 580 yards and 4 touchdowns. And the year before that was even worse. It was 16 for 52, which is 30% and 414 yards.
Now, I can justify 2022 because he had a shoulder injury. Yes. There was some recovering back from all that, stuff, and there was some issues there. I cannot explain away what happened last year on deep ball accuracy at Texas. Again, this was a guy coming out of high school that was supposed to be this God-given arm talent. This was, I heard people talking about this dude with like Warren Moon, okay, talking about like one of the biggest arms to ever walk the planet, okay? That's who this dude was being talked about to be. And when you have one of these big arms, all right, the easiest thing to do for anybody who's got a big arm is throw a deep ball. All I got to do is throw as high and as far as I can, and that's some bitch going to run up underneath it. What you can't do is short arm a ball, or what you can't do is have a lack of ability to drive the ball down the field. You're supposed to be a really, really talented big arm guy. I cannot explain any of the deficiencies here other than he's just not good at it. And I don't know how you're not good at it if you have a massive arm. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can really go and explain is if you watch every pass attempt he had over 20 yards, and I haven't seen that. From what I can...
A lot of underthrows. I'll tell you that right now.
I was going to say, from the Texas games I watched in person and what I remember, he has a problem throwing outside the numbers deep, and it's usually an underthrow if that case, or it veers off outside.
Out of bounds.
Yeah.
Non-competitive.
Well, it's so weird because like the Alabama game last year, he was dropping deep bombs every single time they got the ball. I mean,
every critical possession for sure.
And he was nailing them every single time, but it seemed like every other game that he played in, it was time to take some deep shots. He just couldn't find any consistency with it. So it's like, he can do it. He can be good at it, but there's just something missing from it.
Yeah, but like even if you remember like that 180 Mitchell touchdown, if I remember correctly, it was a rail route, so it's not that far outside the number. Like it's a straight deep ball. Like it's not having to throw.
Same thing to Xavier Worthy. That was a middle hole field throw.
Yeah. So that, just from what I remember watching, is when you get outside the numbers is when it starts getting dicey.
it's outside of the norm to have a big arm eval struggle with those throws. I understand if you're like, you have a bad time throwing digs, you got a bad time throwing slants, like you just can't figure out how to lead people that are running into your face, or maybe you're late on the comeback because you haven't quite figured out how to take a 5-step drop with no hitch. Like things like this make really like easy sense. But I mean, if you're a big arm quarterback, the only thing you should be able to do day one is throw the deep ball, specifically when you have guys like this on your roster, which brings me to my next point. How on earth, if you're a Texas fan or if you're a Texas coach, how can you bank on improvement in this area when you've had such depletion in that skill set at the receiver position? You're putting all of your improvement on the quarterback while giving him lesser than options on the outside that he struggled with last year. This is the hard part for me to look at it in 2023 or 2024 and say, he's going to be better at that. Well, they're going to have less separation than he's had in the last 2 years starting in Texas.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he has some type of trust in it, or he has some type of trust in himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have came back for another year. Now, obviously, I don't know how he would have been evaluated amongst this quarterback class. Definitely wouldn't be as high as he will be next year if he does have another successful year. But it does beg a very valid question of like, we can't guarantee that he's going to be a better passer this year, that the results are going to be any different because of that. I mean, you had two of the NFL's top wide receiver prospects in the class this year on your roster, and it still was very shoddy.
I mean, I think it's definitely fair to assume that Texas offensively takes a step back this year. The only thing that I would say is kind of what I would hang my hat on because I'm a Texas fan is Steve Sarkisian is one of, if not the best offensive mind in college football. And he's going to find a way to get guys open, whether they aren't the fastest on the field or whether they're not the most skilled or whether they're not as skilled as the wide receivers you had last year. So I trust Sark to kind of put Quinn Ewers in winning situations, but obviously, yeah, it looks like he has trouble with deep ball. So that's something you're going to have to coach around.
Chat's talking about Carson Beck's deep ball. Will you get me some Carson Beck deep ball completion percentages?
Yeah.
I know I just sprung that on you, but I just want to counteract that because I don't think it was near as bad as what people make it out to be. I could be totally wrong on that.
I think the Ole Miss Lab McConkey video really hurt his the one where Rob McConkey has that double, the out and up, cooks him, and it's an underthrow. It's a touchdown if he throws it in the right distance.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And in the early on, Beck kind of struggled to build
and the dealt misses.
Yeah, but other than that, I feel like he was fine with the deep ball.
I'm starting to see the Carson hype build on the timeline though. Some of these NFL scouts are starting to work on that 2025 class. I've seen that Kentucky throw a dozen times on my timeline the last week. So yeah, but Buddy's got one of them. So does Quinn Ewers. It's just a matter of accuracy on the deep ball. So we'll see how it comes out. What do you got for me?
So I have it separated between middle of the field, right side of the field, and left side of the field. So just bear with me a little bit. But 20 plus yards from the left side, he was 11 for 23.
50%.
In the middle, it was 2 for 11, so not great. On the right side of the field, though, is 7 for 16.
So he's at about 40%.
13, 20, 30. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a difficult throw. You're really only. I heard. I think it might have been Dan Mullen actually talk about how the average deep ball shots per game is about 1 a quarter. Okay, is what you're really trying to take. You can't just be out here driving 5-step drops every play and taking deep ball shots. You're really only taking about 1 or 2 a quarter, which is about 5 or 6 a game. So it's not a ton, and those because they're difficult to complete, right? I think if you could complete 50% of those balls, you're an elite deep ball thrower. But 34% is not going to live.
No. I mean, they still are like, I'm looking at right now of Texas's passing explosive last season. They still aren't horrible. Like they ranked in like top 15 in a lot of the categories. I think for 40 plus yard plays though, it was like 27th from what I read. So like, it's not elite. When you think of a Steve Sarkisian offense, you would think that, like that's guaranteed bona fide top 10 in explosiveness, but that hasn't exactly translated for them.
All right, on to our next one. We talked about the Texas A&M quarterback battle early in the spring, right? Talked about how Connor Weigman appeared to be the guy, right? And it seemed like as the spring has progressed, we talked about with Elko, him using a bunch of coach speak to basically pretend that there was a quarterback battle early in the spring. only for there not to really be one. I think everyone kind of imagines Connor Weigman to be their guy, imagines Connor Weigman is the presumed starter going into the season. That was our feel of the room in the early part of spring, and I still, somewhat feel that way. But Mike Elko spoke to the media yesterday, and there was coach speak previously, but there's some real coach speak going on now about how he is trying his best to retain this roster. The Jalen Henderson kid and the Marcel Reed kid are really, really good football players. They're good quarterbacks. They've got game tape to prove that. They are commodities, or will be commodities, in the transfer portal if they choose to leave. So what you're seeing right now, and not just from Elko, but what you're seeing is posturing being done at the microphone by head football coaches trying to retain their roster, particularly at the quarterback position. It's not like a backup corner. It's not like a backup guard, where those guys are going to get playing time on Saturday. The number 2 quarterback, especially the number 3 quarterback, you're not getting burned, dude. You're not going to play unless the starter gets hurt. Now, Connor Weigman has a history of being hurt. He is currently hurt right now, but he is a limited participant during practice. Let me read you some of this. Yes, I think, and I said this, and I want to make sure that it is said the right way. Just because you go into spring as the number 1, that doesn't really mean anything other than you're number 1 going into spring. And so Connor had earned that right. We felt like from how he had performed, but like every kid in our program, competition is there. And so Connor knows there's a level of play that he needs to reach in order to continue to be the number 1 and be the number 1 when we play Notre Dame. He went on to be asked about his other quarterbacks on the roster, obviously the Henderson kid and Marcel Reed, and he gave very, very similar answers about both of them. They provide a different skill set. That's a way to say that they can run with their legs and throw the football, but there are highs and lows with their play right now, and he's searching for consistency. Guys, we're going to talk about the Ryan Day situation here in a second, but the amount of posturing going on right now at the microphone by these head football coaches in Power 4 conferences is a little bit, I'm not going to say astonishing, but it requires a good spokesman to stand up there and spin the narrative the way that you want. And the narrative at Texas A&M right now needs to be, we need all 3 of these guys. All 3 of these guys have a chance to play, because what you can't have is everyone presume Connor Weigman to be the guy, and then Jalen Henderson and Marcel Reed hit the portal, and you're stuck with one quarterback who, by the way, has injury histories.
Yeah, I think this is just the modern era of college football for a lot of teams, where it's less about developing your 1 and making sure he's taking all the proper steps to put your team in the most success, whereas it is retaining your 2 and 3 so that you're not left with your pants down come the end of spring when the guys, like you said, there is separation. And it's kind of like, all right, if I'm the 3 guy, why am I staying here when I can go to a different school and be the number 1? And next thing you know, Texas A&M has 1 quarterback, like you said. So I understand why he's doing it completely.
This is why I think these players need really, really good representation, or really, really smart people around them. I think it's pretty well known. Marcel Reed's dad was a former head football coach, coached at Tennessee State for quite a while. I would imagine Marcel Reed's dad and Marcel Reed's camp can probably read through some coach speak. All they got to do is go watch practice. All you got to do is check the rep share. You can say what you want in front of a microphone, but when I go out to a scrimmage and the starter gets 10 series with the ones and you get 2, you do not have an opportunity to compete for the job. And I'm not saying that's what's going on at Texas A&M. I would imagine they're staggering these reps really, really well, like they're doing at Ohio State. There's a reason Julian Sayin is getting reps with the ones. There's a reason Devin Brown is getting reps with the ones, extended reps with the ones, because they don't want those guys hitting the portal. Okay, but you're right, Kirby. There is a real fine line between we are sacrificing the development of our true guy that we know is our guy for a charade or a facade of a competition. And by the way, the number 1 team in the country did this exact same thing this time a year ago. Everyone and their mama knew Carson Beck was going to be the starting quarterback at the University of Georgia, yet they did everything that they could to make Brock Vandagriff believe there was an opportunity he could win that job come August. And guess what? They got him to August, and they had a really substantially talented backup on their roster that was ready to play for the entirety of a championship run. That was far more important than getting the confidence of Carson Beck knowing he was the one back in February. You know what I'm saying? It's far more important for them to keep Jalen Henderson and Marcel Reed on this roster than it is to provide some sense of confidence behind their starter.
Well, do you not think that maybe there are conversations behind closed doors with like your number one quarterback. Well, like with Connor Weigman, like him and Elko have a conversation. It's like, look, you are set to be our number one starting quarterback. Whether or not we just might not be sharing that information with people right now. Like, why wouldn't? And if you aren't doing that, why wouldn't you do that?
Because these are 20-year-old kids who talk a lot of shit to their teammates they're in competition with.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you're at complete risk of abandoning trust in all of your other players if it's like, hey, you're having closed door conversations with the supposed number one quarterback. I mean, if that gets found out, that's even more incentive to leave.
Yeah, there is so much. Hey, how much you making? Going on in these rooms and in these locker rooms all across the country. Hey, what's your deal? What you got going on? What's coach telling you? You know, that kind of thing. That's happening all across the country. That's part of the reason why people are getting so jealous, right? Wait a minute. The freshman that just came in is making how much money? Oh, I got to have a meeting with coach. I got to go in there. We got to demand more money. That's happening all across the country because kids are going to talk. There's no NDAs being signed. There's nothing that says you can't go out and brag about how much money you're making in the locker room after you buy a brand new car or a brand new chain or a brand new watch. I would be a watch guy. A chain guy, maybe nothing real big and gaudy, because I just don't know if that's my steez, but I would definitely be a watch guy. You'd see a rollie on me so goddamn quick.
My thing with the Ohio State situation is they do not strike me as a team that needs to be doing this. Like, because by all purposes, like you went and got Will Howard because you wanted him to be your starting quarterback. I don't think there's any need to provide this lip service because what's the worst thing that happens? Devin Brown's going to enter the transfer portal this spring because he doesn't have the starting job. Okay, you still have Julian Sain and you still have Aaron Nolan. Maybe not the most ideal situation because you have two freshmen on your roster right behind your starter, but at the very least, you still have three scholarship quarterbacks plus the other kid, Kineholz. Kineholz is on there as well. I mean, so
these are the quotes from Day about the competition. No, I don't think we've narrowed it down, but you're seeing guys make certain plays and certain things that are showing up in practice. As we start to get into some of the movement stuff, you get into situational things, you're starting to see some commonalities. A lot of these guys bring great things to the table. Each guy brings either an experience or a skill set that's different from the others. The good news is they can all move the ball, and that's certainly made an impact on the run game and the pass game. There's good things there. There's still things that they need to improve on, yada, yada, yada. Holy coach speak. My God. And the reason that guy's getting asked that question is because Ohio State, very like the Georgia beat, very much so like the Alabama beats, I'm assuming about to become with all those highly paid and well experienced journalists that used to have to get information from a Nick Saban staff that are now having to get information from Kalen DeBoer. I would imagine that's a little bit easier of a barrier of entry. But the thing that you will notice about these places, the media coverage is very well informed on what's going on at practice, no matter how much they allow people inside the building. So when Ryan Day is asked, hey, seems to be some separation, and he has to respond with, we haven't narrowed anything down. The reason he's being asked that is I would imagine this dude's Will Howard's probably gotten a majority of the rep share the last week or so.
Yeah. So again, I just don't think that there's any need to do it because I don't think you're not in as big of a predicament as Texas A&M would be, like of risk of the transfer portal this spring.
Of being completely screwed when your starter gets hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like when you read all of the quotes, Tony Rolo is so cutting me deep right now because Rolos hit different. You ever had a Rolo?
Yeah.
Oof, Rolos hit different. Shout out to the chat. I see y'all active. Kirk Muffins. Yeah, we see a lot of them. We see a lot of them in there.
Aaron
Jake Cookout. I don't necessarily get that one. Just some good names. What'd you say?
Aaron Curry.
Never been a Curry fan.
No. Not at all.
The smell is a little bit too spicy for my nose, let alone the taste.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm good on the curry. But no, the lip service at the microphone this spring has been top notch. I'm trying to save my own ass from the portal this spring. Speaking of top notch quotes, man, it ain't good if you're the head coach at Florida and Steve Spurrier's cooking your ass.
Yeah.
It is not good, buddy. By the way, Steve Spurrier is still on staff at Florida. Steve Spurrier is still titled an ambassador of the football program. I would imagine Steve Spurrier probably still drawing a check from University of Florida.
For sure.
Yeah,
I mean, he will till the day he
somewhere
dies,
down there. Yeah, that kind of advisement doesn't come free.
No.
You know what I mean? And these quotes right here now, I think they're about 3 weeks old, but these quotes right here are not not good signs for Billy Napier's future. Quote, there's a feeling around the Gators of what the heck are we doing? There's a lot of questions that I don't have the answers to about organization. And this is the kicker right here. Just because you hire the most people doesn't mean you're going to win. All these extra people, I question how much that really helps. And then after that, Billy's a good guy. Billy is a good guy who works his tail off. I like Billy. Good family man. But we do wish the organization was a little bit more tidy. This is exactly what we've been talking about this organization for about a year now. Everyone made jokes about the team photo of the organizational staff being twice as large as the roster, and everybody in the SEC laughed at that because they thought, there's no way you're keeping anything in-house. Everybody's going to know your plans. All we got to do is ask, and we will find out about what we need to know about the Florida program.
Is Steve Spurrier the only guy that would speak like this about a current
Is Steve Spurrier the only one that would cook a current head coach at his university? 100%.
Maybe Urban Meyer. I could see Urban Meyer maybe throwing some shade too at like an Ohio State head coach, but Steve Spurrier's about the only one I could see doing this.
I don't think Urban Meyer would do it while he's actively on staff at that university.
Yeah, no. I would push back on you. I think Urban is very coach friendly. Very, very coach friendly. He always looks out for the coaches first because he's a lifelong dictator of a head football coach. Like that's his MO. Now he might point out some. I don't know if he's ever taken shots at Ryan Day at Ohio State. I know the fans have always compared the dictatorship that Urban ran and the fun-loving, good time environment that Ryan Day runs with just like pregame videos of Urban going out there and doing the and then Ryan Day getting in the middle of a dance circle and looking like Uncle Ryan out there dancing in front of the high school kids. So it is very different environments. But Urban's never going to be out here lipping off like this. I wouldn't imagine.
Yeah, no,
this is nuts. The what the heck is going on followed up by Billy's a good guy. Anytime you criticize somebody and then have to follow it up with, hey, great family man, you probably overstepped your criticism right there, right?
So if you're Billy, does this piss you off? Does it motivate you? Or is it just kind of like, it's just Coach Spurrier, like he's protecting the program?
You need to take it as advice, because when you've got the greatest coach of that university, one of the greatest players too, saying like, hey, trim the fat around here.
Yeah.
Like, you probably want to do it.
Also, he's got this abundant staff, and everybody that knows anything about football has been begging Billy Napier to stop calling plays just so he can continue to oversee some of the lack of organization that they have. They have this massive organization, and they can't figure out how to do the small things right on Saturdays. Probably, like we've been mentioning over and over again on this channel, because you're calling your own plays. It's a little bit too much to design a game plan offensively and still maintain all the other things you have to do as a head football coach during the game week, right? And he is very, very adamant about continuing to call plays. He was asked about it this week and gave a big old word salad. Yeah, I do. I think that the big picture-wise, we're taking the group of people that we have and we're trying to develop some good people, groom some people. We've done a ton of work in the offseason to kind of evaluate that in terms of what it looks like. I think down the stretch, though, we played pretty good offense. Created some explosive plays, scored some points. Think we got a quarterback that's returning in the same system. Yada, yada, yada.
That's we're not going to make changes. I like what we have going on.
You know what, dude? If my buyout clause was, I would assume, north of $30 million down there, whatever it is. If I was on my dying leg, I'm going to go out on my gun. I ain't going to go out on somebody else's. So I at least respect it in that sense.
I respect it.
Yeah, if you're worried about getting cooked and getting fired, well, then go stand on your own business, right? Yeah. Go pull a Drinkowitz. Go stand on business. But I don't necessarily love it.
So Napier's on the hot seat.
Oh, big time. Big time.
What are some other names maybe on the hot seat like this coming year?
So Napier's on the hot seat but has a chance to come out looking like he was, a rose from shit-covered ground, right? If he comes out and wins 8 games this year, everybody's going to vote him goddamn coach of the year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got an opportunity.
Hell, they might do that if he wins 7.
His seat is warm, borderline hot. Shane Beamer's is already soaked in gasoline, and the damn dude's holding the match going, You know, like Shane Beamer is way up Schitt's Creek without a paddle.
Yeah, no doubt. Those two came to my mind. You gave a good shout out to Dave Arnett, which I talked about last year. I was like, this dude was on the hot seat for me going into this last season. This season for sure. I mean, Baylor has just been a crap show, for the lack of a better term. That program has not been of anything.
After a really good year one.
Yeah, we started out really high, set the bar really high, and then you think he won like 2 games the next year. So bad.
Not great, Bob. But I'm with you there. Some hot seats there. Anybody else?
Sam Pittman, I would say, is probably on the hot seat, especially after losing KJ Jefferson.
I don't know who their quarterback is going to be. It's either going to be the cat from Boise State, Malachi Singleton down here from the state of Georgia, or some other guy that I can't remember the name of.
I don't know.
So that'll be interesting. Either way, you're going to probably see some type of dual threat from Arkansas. For sure. There'll be some tough defensive game plans to keep that quarterback in the pocket. But Arkansas is a good place to look this year for a hot seat. South Carolina, we mentioned Florida. Anybody else?
What about a Cristobal? How do you feel about that one?
You know, I think Cristobal has been a resounding, I'm not going to say failure, but it's been a disappointment down there, coming home, all that good stuff. But he's going on year 3. Mm-hmm. He's going on year 3 of a 10-year deal. Yeah. Yeah, he's there, Bubba. You are there.
Yeah, Miami's not eating
it's
that buyout.
80 over 10 that they got in. They got the Jimbo contract. That's what they got. They got the Jimbo contract right now down there in Miami. 10 years, $8 million a year.
Do you think that what Arkansas just did with Calipari might keep Sam Pittman safe just for buyout's sake? Or
yeah, I would imagine Calipari is probably the second or third highest paid basketball coach in the sport.
Got to be.
Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
Right? Especially since Hurley apparently keeps turning down jobs. But I would imagine that one's not cheap. And I don't think they had to pay a buyout though for their other coach, the Musselman guy. He went to USC, so they didn't have to handle any business with that. So maybe money's a little tight, but I would imagine most of the money in Arkansas right now, most of the spare money is probably going to basketball.
I think that Venables could be one of these people. He's on a 6-year contract with Oklahoma. He's going into year 3 right now. I believe if my calculations are right, it'd be like a $24 million buyout after this season.
He's making $8 a year.
Yeah, it's
7.5, I think.
Yeah,
or 7.25.
It's not that
they give
great.
A first-time head football coach almost $8 million.
Yeah, and so
That's crazy.
I think that Oklahoma, like if their season doesn't go as a plan in the first year of the SEC, I could very well see the Sooners just being happy to eat that money and find him a replacement.
And you have an influx in available revenue because you just got an additional $20 million a year off of your TV contract, right? Switch over from the Big 12 to the SEC is worth about $20 million a year. What do you got over there?
I was just, when you said
you got a face on you.
When you said they gave Venables $7.5 million, I was like, what did Kirby Smart get his first year? According to this, it was $400,000 base salary. But I don't. That's got to.
That's impossible.
That's got to be with.
That's impossible.
Shot.
He might have got $400,000 in between December 15th and January 1 when he got hired.
There's no way.
You know what I mean? There's no way. I don't think Kirby's ever made less than $6 million a year at Georgia. Not since I've covered it.
It was a base salary. Okay, so it was in 2016. It was a base salary of $400,000, and then a $2.2 million salary for media compensation, 1.8 for equipment endorsements, and. So like the base salary he got just to be the coach but it was a $3 million.
That's an accounting trick.
Yeah.
He made $6.5 million.
Right. Yeah. So it wasn't wrong. But
I wonder if they promised him a house and then told him he had to pay it himself. Shout out the Trojans. Hey, we got a whole nother hour coming up for you, and it is a big one. GDay is on Saturday, and we're going to do a full position-by-position breakdown for you. Everything we've heard, known, seen from spring practice at each singular position coming up right now.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What up, people? We got a whole nother hour, last hour of the week here on the channel. Got a bunch of people in here right now. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Had someone ask in the chat, hey, I leave comments, but how do I rate and review? That is an option on our podcast platforms. However you catch your podcast, just search the Film Guy Network. You will find us. A lot of you guys, most of you watch almost an hour of this show per average user.
Thanks.
Most of y'all are here for quite some time, but it's a 2-hour show. I don't expect everybody to see every single second. So if you have an opportunity tomorrow to maybe slack off a little bit at work, you can catch us on our podcast platforms. And the great thing about Spotify, okay, I don't know about iTunes. I don't use them anymore, podcasts, whatever. The great thing about Spotify is we are actually a dual kind of platform there. We're video available on Spotify as well. So sometimes this show can be a really, really tough listen. It almost requires you to watch because what we're about to do, right? We're going to go to that board and we're going to talk and we're going to be a very visual product for you guys. But if there's any portion of the broadcast you ever miss, you can catch it out on a podcast. And that's why I ask you, hey, leave that rating, leave that review, because that's kind of how you game the numbers over on Spotify and over on the podcast apps. So yeah, we are available, however, wherever you catch your podcast. Welcome in to Talk That Dog. It is our local hour of content, and GDay is finally here. I've said it multiple times this week. It feels like football season because I'm getting asked to go on different podcasts, radio station hits, all that good stuff that we do for free. Think I should start charging $1 or $2 for those?
$1?
Maybe just something, some cross-pollination. Anyways, go on all these radio shows during the week, and the one thing I get asked is like, what's the vibe? What's the vibe like? What are people thinking? And I've always said, and I believe I've made this take on this channel, the spring game and the spring scrimmage, GDay, for me is always a very good litmus test of the vibe of the fan base. Are y'all still hungry type shit? I find that out during GDay. Now, last year, moot point, half the stadium shut down for renovations. This year, if there ain't 85,000 people strong, it holds 93. If there ain't 85,000 people strong on Saturday, I'm going to call you a stagnant fan base.
Oh.
Not stagnant, but you ain't hungry. You're complacent. I don't want to see that. Complacency gets you beat. So show up, get out there, and support them dogs on GDay. Mm-hmm. So yeah, big litmus test for you guys as a fan base. Obviously, it's our first opportunity to look at this roster that we're about to break down in extensive nature, but it's also our first kind of opportunity to be college football fans for the calendar year. So show up, show out, and get rowdy. Your boy's going to be there. Jay Will's going to be there. Kirby,
I'll be there.
You'll be there.
Yes.
All right. The whole crew going to be there. We're not going to be doing any live content, any type of stuff like that, because there's a lot of digital content that has to be created over on Dogs Daily, all that good stuff. But yeah, be tuned in, si.com/college/Georgia. If you want any type of information in terms of visitors list, we put a very, very extensive visitors list up on patreon.com/Brooks Austin this morning. So if you want that, head over there. It only costs you about a pub sub. Might be running a 7-day free trial on that soon. Ooh. Thinking about it. I've never done it. We've never given away free trials for like a full week where you can sign up for a month for free. Everybody does the $1 for 12 months everywhere else. I figured maybe, just maybe, we do something like that soon.
Give him a little taste.
Look, get him hooked. Get him fiending. Shout out, speaking of fiending, hey, shout out to them folks over at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com, promo code Brooks, 100% deposit match. Boys, I'm going to use the restroom right quick. What are you most excited about this weekend?
Most excited? One,
football. Don't want to unmute. I just unmuted. That would have been bad. That would have been really, really bad. Go ahead.
Excited for football to be back. Excited to watch that. Obviously,
that's the main thing.
That's like obviously the biggest thing of like just getting to watch Georgia football on a Saturday. That's a big plus. I think the biggest thing that I think most people are really excited for is the freshmen, but also the transfer portal acquisitions, getting to see all of those guys, the wide receivers that they brought in. I think that's really what people are most intrigued about. I'm really intrigued about it. Like for me, because we don't get to go see these players. We don't even get to go to the 10-minute practice session where we get to watch them stretch. Like this is our first opportunity to see them on the football field in pads and see them in person, just get a feel for how big these dudes are.
Yeah, I mean, the newcomers is always one of the most exciting things because it's your first time seeing them in person in the red and black. And it's also, for a fact you're going to see a lot of these freshmen play just because that's what they do on GDay. So that's kind of what's got me excited the most, is just being able to see new players and things such as that.
Absolutely.
Epic, Ben.
Aye, Captain.
All right, so here's how we're going to do this. A lot of talking points here with the roster to kind of hit and nail down. So what we're going to do is correct the monitor. Ooh, Hey, shout out to the barber. We're going to correct the monitor first, and then also we're going to go position by position and give you guys a good visual product of where this roster looks and where this roster's at. Additionally, we're going to give you some intel on guys that have been talked about and talked positively about this spring. Here's what I want to preface this with. If I don't talk about a player, it does not mean bad things. Okay, what we are talking about tonight is guys who have had sources raving. Not sources talking, sources raving. If I say something about them, that's what I'm talking about. Let's start where everybody wants to start, gentlemen, that quarterback room. It's been a very different spring practice for most Georgia fans, most Georgia media content creators, because normally there's some type of facade of a battle going on. This is very akin to Stetson's second year coming back in 2022.
Yeah, 2022, 2019 are really only 2 years where it's like, hey, we know who the quarterback is. There's not really a battle. It's this guy. We can move on from that. So, yeah, 2022 is the last one with Stetson. So, and this year hasn't really been a battle. And I know they've kind of tried to play up Gunnar Stockton as kind of he is the 1B person, not 1B, but the strong 2. So, not really much of a battle to talk about.
All right, so let's go through it right quick. Carson, the news and the intel I have for you about Carson, somebody on a podcast today said that they had heard Carson had gained 20 pounds. And I was like, if Carson Beck's running around at 240, I might throw up. That's not good. We don't want Carson Beck at 240. But Carson has, toned his body up a little bit. Very akin to what Stetson did year 1 as a starter into year 2 as a starter. Came back with them tight sleeves and was like, what's up, buddy? I've been in the gym. That kind of stuff going on.
Year 1 Stetson is a very different football player than
very much so. Year 2 Stetson had bicep veins.
Yeah.
Year 2 Stetson might have, found the gym, if you will. But anyways, the good news out of Carson this spring has been exactly what we wanted to hear, right? Confidence, right? I'm talking about celebrations after touchdowns during practice, right? I'm talking about a little shit talking going on. I'm talking about playing like you drive a Lambo, right? Like you drive a Lambo truck and you make over $1 million like we've been told by On3. So yeah, that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, year 1, you kind of feel like you're just getting your feet wet a little bit, but now coming into year 2, and again, very akin to what Stetson did from year 1 to year 2 of Stetson had some swag about him that second year as a starter. He had some confidence, some moxie about himself. I think we're going to see a very similar thing with Carson this year.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of, if you had one critique, not of his gameplay, but the way he played last year, it was kind of
turn downs.
Yeah, you could have made that throw. Why didn't you take that? You took the check down. It was complete, and it was it was fine because he was accurate as hell. He's completed I think 72% of his balls.
73.
Yeah. So yeah, like the results weren't bad, but there was a lot of like, hey, you could have made that throw maybe.
All right. On to the next one, Gunnar Stockton. A lot of good pub, if you will. A lot of good reporting coming out of camp this spring, about Gunnar Stockton. And look, man, this is a really, really good news for Georgia in this sense right now. This is the most amount of reps this young man has ever taken in an offseason, and it's dramatically different. You went from a football player who was a resonant 3, an obvious 3, to, hey, you're the 2 now, and we need you to get a bunch of reps. And not only that, our 3, who we're going to talk about here in a second, the only other scholarship quarterback on the roster, he's going to end up limited halfway through spring. So you're going to have to take some of those reps as well. So he's been taking 2's reps. He's been taking 3's reps. He's even gotten 1's reps, because when you're the 2, you get about 20% of the 2's or the 1's reps during spring practice. You get an opportunity to play with that frontline unit and play with those frontline weapons. And it sounds like Gunnar has had, I would say, a tremendous spring. Okay, I wouldn't even say a good spring. I would say it sounds like Gunnar Stockton had a tremendous spring, one so much so that they almost feel very comfortable he's going to be their guy in the fall of 25.
Yeah, and this is exactly what you wanted to hear coming out of that locker.
I didn't want to hear I don't know. That's for damn sure. I did not want to hear I don't know. How could you not know during his first calendar year at Georgia? Because again, not getting any reps, but it sounds like the reps have confirmed they know.
Yeah, and like I said, you wanted to know what you had in Gunnar Stockton at this point, because there is a possibility, and it's I mean, it's not a nightmare scenario, but it's bad if it is true. But there's a possibility he takes 1 reps as a starter this year.
Yes.
Just because injury. And you want to know what you have in Gunnar Stockton when he does that. So
100%. So on to the third and final quarterback we're going to talk about tonight. Shout out to our boy 26, Drake.
Colin Drake.
Shout out Colin Drake. Shout out my boy Colin Drake. We will not be talking about you tonight, baby, even though you're probably going to get some reps on Saturday.
Not even a Sam Bush shout out?
Yeah, no Sam Bush shout out. No shout out to the Bush. On to Ryan Puglisi. Shout out to Pugga. Ryan Puglisi obviously been limited this spring with a knee injury. Okay. Don't know how much, if at all, we're going to see him on Saturday. If you want my full thoughts on that, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Anyways, so there's that. But what we have seen and heard of this spring from Ryan Puglisi, they don't know the full evaluation yet. They don't know the ceiling, but they confirmed, or they saw confirmation of why they took this guy, right? You took this kid off traits and character evaluation. He is going to compete. He's going to push himself. He's going to work like he's supposed to. And, oh, by the way, 6'3", 225, got a hose. They saw all of that this spring. You confirmed why you took, and that's the good news. You don't ever want to get a guy in and be like, "Ooh, man, we thought he was a lot better," or "Ooh, man, we thought he could do this and he can't." That's bad news. That would be a confirmation otherwise of the eval. They sound like they've hit on what they took with Ryan. Whether or not he's going to be an all-SEC guy, you don't know that yet. How could you, right? But they've found what they were looking for in him, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, for a room that already had its answer for the 2024 season, I mean, you got all of the answers that you wanted out of that quarterback room for what you were looking for at the beginning of spring. Of, is Gunnar Stockton going to be a formidable number 2 QB this next year? Is he going to be set to be the starter the next season? And then Ryan Puglisi, is he actually a dude like what we thought he was coming out of this class? And you got every single answer that you wanted to hear out of that room.
All right, let's go on to the running back room now. This one's really interesting, at least for Saturday, because I don't know the answer or the status of this one right here, right? Everybody in the chat's already asking, is Trevor Etienne going to play on Saturday? I don't know. I might find out by the end of tonight's show, but I don't know. I put out some feelers to try to figure it out. Probably going to be some tight-lipped information that we're probably not going to get until Saturday, but you won't have to wait long. You're either going to see him in pregame warm-ups or you're not, okay? People like me are going to be tweeting it out, or we are not. So, but either way, come fall, you have a 1A and 1B situation until Branson Robinson gets healthy, who, by the way, needs to be over here. I love hearing that Branson Robinson is confident. I love hearing that interview from the Players Lounge. It's all great stuff. I don't expect to hear anything other than I'm fitting to kill some folks this fall. I'm glad to hear that. But when you go through a pretty, it wasn't traumatic, but it was a major injury. This was a very big injury. This wasn't just your ACL. This was, I think, the PCL as well, maybe the patella.
Yeah, I think it's patella.
I think it was the patella that went out. So this was a little bit different than your standard ACL operation. This is one that's going to take a little bit longer to become himself again. But when you listen to that Players Lounge interview, when you read the quotes, he feels confident he will return to that status. So let's put him over there. That's kind of the intel on him. Don't know if Etienne's going to play this spring, but what we've heard from spring camp and from practice and from sources is that not only is he what they thought he was, he's exactly what they kind of needed in the room. If you guys recall, man, they haven't had one of these guys, one of these elite, like, one make you miss kind of first defenders, never going to tackle me football players. Oh, and by the way, can be an explosive kind of threat out of the backfield as well in the passing game. Not necessarily the best pass protector in the world so far through his college career. That's something that's going to have to get picked up. And by the way, when you go out there and see him, you can kind of see why he's not a great pass protector, but you can also see why he's almost impossible to tackle.
Yeah,
real compact frame.
Having a game breaker in that room for this season was a huge addition for Georgia.
You got your lightning back. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't had a lightning back in a while. Like, Kenny McIntosh presented himself as such, but I never felt like Kenny was ever healthy at Georgia. I never felt like he was ever 100% as advertised, like he had a potential to be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the last one would have been James Cook, and that's 3 seasons ago now. So
it's crazy, isn't it?
Which is
so long ago. It'll be 3 seasons this fall. So yeah, you're right there. We're gonna go Andrew Paul right here at the 2 deep. Okay. All right, and then we'll probably go Cash Jones.
Shout out
to the money man. All right, and then probably go Chauncey Bowens here. Okay, there's a U in there somewhere. Now, So there's Chauncey. I don't know why I put Bowers. Bowens. Okay. Now, some other contributing factors here, right? 1A over here would be Dwight Phillips. I don't think Dwight Phillips ever gets traditional running back carries. I think Dwight Phillips is going to be a gadget back. I think Dwight Phillips is going to be Mecole Hardman in 2025. Right, 2024. I think that's the kind of the mold there. And the other name that's going to be there this spring, or this summer rather, is Nate Frazier. Now, I don't know how Josh Crawford feels about him. I feel comfortable letting the folks know Dale McGee thought that dude was going to be a physique. Okay, so whenever he shows up, he's going to play a role this fall as well. Guys, this is way deeper of a running back room than anything I've covered at Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like last year you were struggling to get just 4 names on the board, much less a 1A and a 1B. And oh, by the way, you've got 2 or 3 guys off to the side that when the time comes, they'll be in that rotation as well. So the running back room is much deeper than it ever has been. Not ever, but in the last 4 or 5 years in the Kirby Smart era, which is something you love to see because everyone knows how important running the ball is at Georgia.
Dude, game 1 last year was Cash Jones and Rod Robinson.
Yeah.
Like, that's not Georgia standard. A true freshman and a walk-on, that is not Georgia standard. So this is getting back to that is what it feels like. So that's a good positive room that had a great spring apart for some off-the-field stuff.
Yeah, I think the player I'm most intrigued about for Saturday is honestly Andrew Paul, just because
got to see it.
You're a full year back from that ACL injury, and so you kind of give some grace. You give a little bit of grace period for him, and he got into the mix a little bit last year, but now we had a full spring. We're going into year 3 for you. I'm really interested to see what he looks like.
Deep rooms nowadays make people worry about attrition through the transfer portal. This would be one of those ones I'd be looking at. I'll be like, if somebody leaves, you wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to name any names, but hey, look, there's 8 names on the board, guys. They really only played 2 or 3 of them. Okay, so that's kind of the deal right there. All right, on to our next position. We're going to go tight end next. Tight end is really, really simple.
Might as well.
Okay, you got Oscar, right? You got Lucky right now.
It looks like Dosker.
Chill out, bro. They can read. You got Lucky, and then I'm going to put Riddell and Heinrich right here next to each other, even though it sounds like Riddell is a super freak, which is where we ought to start with the intel. Riddell was popping 21.5 plus on the GPS during workouts this offseason. At almost 6'6", 245, 250 pounds.
Jeez.
Neanderthal. Got more hair on his legs than I do on my head. He is a big, physical, adult male. Yeah, there's very, very little growth left in that one, but you don't need it. You know what I mean? You're 6'6", 250 as an 18-year-old. You're good. Don't get any bigger. But yeah, he has thrown up some crazy-ass running times or running metrics after kind of being wow, this kid's way bigger than we thought type of guy when he showed up on campus.
It feels like the tight end room this year.
What did I try with Heinrich right there?
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like Micah from here.
That says Harwich.
All right. Boy.
There you go.
Nailed it.
Feels like the tight end room this year is like a good boring.
Yeah, and then you got Jurasic over here.
I mean that in the best way possible. Of like,
God,
it's set. Right. Like we know exactly what the room is going to look like outside of Jurasic. Like we don't know what he is going to look like in a Georgia uniform, but I mean your room is set, and that's a good thing to have in spring.
So my question would be: when Jurasic finally does arrive, is he between 2 and 3, or is he right between 1 and 2?
Yeah, I think Lawson Lucky's playing time took a ding. Oscars didn't, but yeah, that was first of all, the reason they took him, because Kirby made us aware of it. They knew about Spurlin. They've known about Spurlin, it sounds like, for a while now. So they took Jurasic because they knew they were going to be thin. You're an injury away from Lawson Lucky being it in terms of ready to play. You don't want to be midway through the season and Lawson Lucky's the only tight end you got. Oscar's been out with a tightrope surgery or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Lucky needs a breather. Okay, throw the freshman out there. Don't care how talented Jaden Riddell is, probably not going to be ready to play this year.
Yeah,
unless he's Brock Bowers.
I don't think there's a Brock Bowers in there.
No.
I mean, for the last 3 seasons, you haven't made it through the entire season with both tight ends healthy.
It's a great point. And they needed to make an addition there. You're right, though. It's kind of the room where it's kind of known. We know what we got going on. I would imagine Saturday, excuse me, Lucky gets the ones reps with the 2 group, and then he's probably backed up by Riddell, and then Heinrich probably backs up Delp with the ones. So don't get that one twisted. You also need to know that at Georgia, there's Ys and there's H's. They both are labeled tight ends, right? This is a Y in Oscar Delp. This is an H/Y type in Lucky, right? Physical enough to do the Y stuff. Physically looks like an H. Okay, Heinrich is an H. Okay, whereas Jaden Riddell at 6'6" more projects as a Y. Okay, you can see this in your recruiting classes as well. Elias Williams is currently 6'7", 240 pounds with an 85-inch wingspan. I'm going to repeat that. Elias Williams is 6'7", 240 pounds with an 85-inch wingspan.
Get that man on the court.
Get that man on the court and get that man in the cafeteria. Get him to about 260, and you got Darnell Washington 2.0 hanging out in your roster. Also, get him to campus, by the way. Make sure you solidify that one. Okay, he's your Y in that class, whereas Ethan Barbour, more of an H type in that class as well. So that's kind of what you're stacking right now in your classes. I need a Y type and I need an H type. All right, on to our wide receiver room. Now,
knocking out all the skill positions.
Yeah. Offensive line's like, we're just going to list that 1 through 10, okay? Because I think they got 10 dudes. Now, here's the difficult part. Let's start with the wide receiver discussion at X, okay? Now, last year, or going into the spring, everyone kind of projected Ra Thomas as the projected starter at X. He's since moved more into a Z role. And we found this out and confirmed our reporting with the GDay roster reveal, quote-unquote reveal, right? They put Dylan Bell, Ra Thomas, Dom Lovett on one team. Well, how can all three of those guys play one team? Well, one of them's playing X and one of them's playing Z. All right, so the X this year, in my opinion, to start, okay, will be Dylan Bell. They think Dylan Bell might be their first true homegrown first-round pick at the wide receiver position. Ooh. The NFL is all over this guy. Okay, they love the ability to be a DPC, a designated pass catcher, which is exactly what this guy is. He's not just going to play X this year. He's going to play all over the field, I would imagine. All right, and then the number 2 guy here, currently, I would say, is Colby Young. Okay, but before Colby Young gets on the field, if they needed to, if Dylan got hurt tomorrow, Ra Thomas would be in there. Okay, that's how that would operate. But come September, when Dylan needs a blow, I would imagine Colby Young takes those reps.
So is Colby Young not the true 2 right now just because he hasn't quite grabbed the system, kind of similar to what Ra was last year?
Bingo. Okay, and then number 3, we're going to put Tyler Williams down here. Okay. Still coming along. Okay, very much so, still coming along. I think Coley's going to be great for his development. From what Cole Spurrier was talking about the other day, sounds like not only is Coley in everybody's ass constantly, but he's also a technician. He is very, very refined in how he teaches route running, something that Tyler could probably use some help with. So we can stop there and go on to our next position, which will be the Z. Okay, now this is the one where I kind of need some help in projection. Okay, because right now, okay, it's got Ra Thomas sitting right here. And then I think the 2 right here when I went to practice was this guy, Arian Smith. If I remember correctly, I have to go back and listen to my audio notes, but that's kind of what's going on here because Dom Lovett's playing in the slot. Anthony Evans is going to get some reps in the slot. Okay,
where does London Humphreys fall in that?
Yeah,
right here in a Z.
That's what I was wondering.
It's a great question, and he's right here. Now, the other kind of curveball in this whole situation is this guy. Okay? Little Michael Jackson the third right here is you didn't get my hee joke.
I got it.
Is the curveball in here because I know they're cross training him, so he's having to learn the slot, the X, and the Z.
Swiss Army.
Yeah, trying to use him in a multiple variety of ways, including a yak guy, right? Just get the ball in his hands and see what he can, make happen, whether it be jet sweep, stuff like that. Very akin to how they used Jermaine Burton early on in his career at Georgia. As a X, maybe a Z, maybe a slot, maybe a reverse guy. That's what it sounds like they're doing with him.
Do you think that they'll do that with Sokovie?
Yes. Zakovi is currently, I believe, playing in the slot. I think he's the 3 or somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't exactly know where Cole Spurrier fits in this mix either. It's what's really hard about doing our job. They give us 13 minutes, and you go out there and you got to watch everybody. Oh, and by the way, they lie to you while you're out there. They lie to you. They put guys in certain positions on the depth chart, and then as soon as you leave, the depth chart looks real. It doesn't look fake. Okay, so it's very. I was talking to a source about the depth chart and was kind of giving. It starts out with, well, what do you think it is? And then I get the real. And there was a chuckle midway through in the transition of what I think and what is real with. Damn, we make it hard on you. Like, damn, we make your job hard. I'm like, yeah, bro, it's not easy.
Chat wants to know where Nitro Tuggle is. I'd have to assume he's slot, right? Or Z.
He's a Z. The slot in that class is a Kobe. Boy, you ain't getting no Rose Bowl hat. You ain't getting my Rose Bowl hat. Everybody want my Rose Bowl hat. You not get my Rose Bowl hat. I might give it to you if you're a friend. Might give you the plug on that one. But what is the point of having cool shit if you just going? I'm not a gatekeeper. Okay, I'm not. Try not to be too much of it. But what's the point of having cool shit if you're just gonna give it out to everybody anyways? Don't make it cool no more. Onto the slide.
Okay.
Okay, what you said?
Okay, man. Don't know where that came from.
I got a text asking where I got that damn Rose Bowl hat.
Oh, they weren't even asking for it? They just want to know where you got it?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's gatekeeping.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not a gatekeeper, but I'm gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Get out of here. This is a really confusing position, honestly. I think they're going to play a bunch of guys here. And it's all going to be positional or, situational based. Okay, that's Arian Smith, by the way. And then I would put Zacoby White
it's like
down
a signature.
here. Chill out. I'll put Zacoby White down there. By the way, we're not even halfway through. I got a whole defensive roster to do. So if you think my penmanship's bad now, give me 20 minutes.
So to me, it kind of feels like Georgia is going to basically play positionless wide receiver this year, is what it really feels like. Because it's like Dylan Bell is going to play X, but you can play Dylan Bell at the slot or the Z or wherever else. And it feels like there's a lot of guys where they're kind of plugging and playing them just based on a lot of situational things, which that makes another interesting thing to kind of watch for on GDay. Not that they maybe will show a lot of those things because you keep it very vanilla, but interested to see how that works out.
I had one source tell me it's almost as if we have so many dudes that we don't have any. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have so many options that they don't know who the primary is going to be. But I think the primary is going to be Dylan Bell this fall. All right, so that handles all the wide receivers. Let's go into the offensive line room. All right, so let's go left to right. We'll put E. Green right here. Okay, we'll put Dylan Fairchild right here. Backed up by Micah Morris. We'll put a MM on his name. Jared Wilson right here. Tate Fatledge, as they call me, right here. Oh, I actually wrote Fatledge. Ratledge right here. Okay. And then our guy, Xavier Big Truss, okay, out there at right tackle. As good of a ones unit as there is in college football right now, by the way. NFL dude currently tracking at a 3rd to 6th round evaluation. NFL dude currently tracking at a 3rd to 4th round evaluation. NFL dude currently tracking 5th to 7th, depending on what he does the next 2 years as a starter. Dylan Fairchild tracking as a potential first rounder at the guard position.
What?
Potential first rounder at the guard position. Here's my comp for Dylan Fairchild. You ready?
Yeah.
Zach Martin, Notre Dame.
Ooh,
all right.
nice.
And then Ernest Green over here projected right now as a 3rd round draft pick. Might sneak his way into a 2nd round. He's never going to be I don't want to say this and label it in concrete. It's going to be very hard for Ernest Green to be a 1st round draft pick at the tackle position. He's 6'3" with 33.5-inch arms. It's just not historically, the data points on his RAS score might keep him out of the 1st round, period, just because of his height, weight, and length. And it's a height, weight, length kind of league. All right, so Michael Morris will be rotating Saturday at both these positions. Tate will also get some center reps on Saturday as well. Okay, so there is all of that. But this is the name, not only this spring, and when they went back and reevaluated their 2023 performances, Dylan Fairchild's the one that's like, whoa, we nailed one there. So, all right, let's go on to the second unit. I love that this dude is playing extremely well this spring because he's been an eyeball scout forever. Jamal Merriweather out of, he played where Warren McClendon went, Brunswick. Okay, out of Brunswick right here. This cat is beautiful. Every time I've ever seen him during warm-ups, I'm like, eyeball test. Like, I ain't seen shit. I've not seen the guy play. How would we? I don't even think he got mop-up duty last year, right? But when you watch him in warm-ups, skinny ankles, long arms, athletic build, 6'5", power forward at 300 pounds. Give me some of that. That is Jamal Merriweather. He's had a really, really good and solid spring. Now, this left guard, this 2 left guard is something that I continuously have problems with, because in reality, this is the 2 left guard, right? And then the other guard is Daniel Calhoun right now. Daniel Calhoun has worked his way into kind of that 4th guard spot. Who's the 5th guard? I don't know. It's a variety of people. For just shiggles, we're going to put Kelton Smith's name down here, a former Adidas All-American out there in San Antonio. The number 2 right now is that boy Drew Bobo at the center position. Okay, talked about it the other night. Say what you want about nepotism. Okay, whatever. Drew Bobo is a damn football player and a good one. Okay, he's going to play SEC minutes at some point in his career. Don't know if it's going to be at Georgia. Don't know if it's going to be as a grad transfer somewhere. Don't know. But he is a good football player and has played well this spring. And then the future at the tackle position right now is Monroe Freeling out here at right tackle. Now, the question for most: is there going to be any type of movement here between Xavier Truss and Monroe Freeling? A lot of people, quote unquote, gatekeeping the tackle position right here, wanting the young cat to push out the old guy. What the number one thing y'all seem to hate is when old guys keep the opportunity for young guys to play, and then the young guy, God forbid, moves on and becomes a great player somewhere else. You guys are terrified of that situation as fans. I don't know if that's going to happen there. I don't know if Monroe's going to beat him out. I also think Monroe seems to be really happy as a Georgia Bulldog right now, continuing to be developed. And, oh, by the way, start a year at right tackle at Georgia, Amarius Mims, 8 games, first-round draft pick. Okay, if you're God-given like Monroe Freeling is at 6'6.5", 315 pounds with like 12% body fat and athletic feet and tremendous flexibility, you have first-round potential. Okay, you just need to put first-round tape on for like 12 games. So, yeah, there's that. All right, some other names that need to be known based off what I've heard this spring. Nair Daniels has not only lost about 80 pounds, but in doing so has like, okay, he's got what we thought he's got, that kind of deal. Okay, he's had a really good and productive spring. Ask me some other names on that roster that I'm missing you're looking at right now.
Bo Hewley?
Bo Hewley's out with a shoulder injury. Right. Will not be playing this spring.
Malachi Tolliver, okay, they took as a swing player. Don't know what he's going to play. Malachi Tolliver has actually showed tremendous promise at the center position this spring. Good for them.
So, yeah, they found some depth. They went from y'all have nobody playing center to y'all might have 3 solid options moving forward.
Anything on Easley?
Yeah, Marquise, haven't heard much. I think he's been moving in at guard. I think I overheard Kirby say that, or might have heard Kirby say that in a press conference. But from hey, have you heard great things? You see how deep the room is, right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys that we got to talk about before it's like, hey, by the way, the freshman from Missouri, how's he doing? You know what I mean? It doesn't mean he's doing bad. It's just that it's a really deep room, man.
Yeah, and then I guess just to touch on our bases, Michael Unai.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Gotcha.
Okay. Love the end of the high school career, though. That was an ascending football player for sure. All right, so that is the offense. Do you want to go to the desk and have general talking points, or should we just go ahead and
I think we might as well just go ahead.
Let's just go ahead and do it. All right, let's go defensive line, interior defensive line. So this tackles nose tackles, right, and D tackles. All right, first nose tackle is Nas Stackhouse. Okay. Nas, currently 3rd to 5th round eval. He's an NFL football player that came back for some NIL. Okay, so there's that. By the way, those aren't my words. Those are Kirby's words. Okay, and then right after that is a guy who this spring and this last offseason has proven to be an option. Okay, and it's not always guaranteed that these dudes are going to be verifiable options at this position, right? Nose tackle. It's going to be a different breed. It's going to be not only a massive human, which Ja is. Ja's probably pound for pound the biggest and broadest individual on this roster, especially with how much weight those offensive linemen have lost. Ja is freakishly large. Ja is Mount Ja. Ja is huge, okay? And he's played really well this spring. And the key to playing defensive line at Georgia, this is going to sound really simplistic, it is toughness. Like, you got to be a bad SOB to play defensive line at the University of Georgia, because you're required to hold mass and inertia of multiple humans on the other side of the ball. It's going to require some violence. Ja has found that this spring. He's had a tremendous offseason. He's earned himself some playing time. Okay. And then I believe some guys like Nnamdi Agboko might be playing here at nose tackle, but this is your two deep. This is really the only options at the 0 position. Hey, put them over there, over the top of the center, might get doubled or triple teamed, go survive. Those are the two options. So let's move over to D tackle, which is a much deeper room. Okay, at the top, I would say is probably Warren Brinson. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to go Jordan Hall. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to go Kristen Miller. Okay, and then after that, I'm probably going to go Jordan Thomas. Okay, the freshman, and he has had a good sign of a spring. Did I forget anybody over there on that roster, bud?
Not that I'm seeing.
Okay, so that's kind of what I would say. And up until like this line right here, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 300-plus pounders that Kirby Smart's comfortable playing.
Is Xavier McLeod in that defensive tackle room?
Xavier McLeod is in both of these rooms. Okay? Xavier McLeod is going to play, I would say, about 20, 25 snaps a game, starting like week 1.
Nice.
Okay? And he's versatile enough to do some of this while also playing with Warren.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Put Xavier out there, put McLeod out there and Brinson. Okay, next possession. Put Nas out there and McLeod, right? Put McLeod at the D tackle. You know what I'm saying? He can flip-flop like this. That's a big human being. Okay, he doesn't look like he's 330 pounds, but he's 330 pounds. He is a very large human, and they feel as if they've hit on Jordan Thomas.
Good.
Okay, so that's good news there. Beginning of the spring, don't think we thought it was going to be 7 deep at these two positions.
No,
not at all.
And that's exactly what it is. So good job on Trey Scott for continuing to develop that room. And this addition is huge. Okay, they think he's a really special football player. It's a matter of consistency and keeping him, on the field. So there's that. All right, let's move into that defensive end room. Okay, which right now on Saturday, your starter is not going to be available. It is TID. They're really bullish on TID. I've always been bullish on TID. He was my guy coming out of Gaffney High School in South Carolina. He's lost about 30 pounds since he got to college and has become an immensely talented athlete. Okay, at 270-ish pounds. Will you look up his roster weight for me? I think about 275.
Where's his number? Oh, right here.
He's 93.
280.
He's 280. Okay. Every time. 280, okay? So he's a big human. 6'4", okay, about 280 pounds, and he's going to play defensive end. Now, the difference is this year, his backup doesn't really look like him because Kell's moved over to Jack, right? Michael is about 6'5", 265. And then you got this other guy that's in here playing a little bit undersized, but is ultra violent, and that's Gabe Harris at the defensive end position. I think Gabe's probably going to be listed at 6'5", 250. He's actually about 6'5", 240. Maybe 6'4", 240. What's he listed at? He's number 29.
Gabe Harris is listed at 6'4", 245. You just do it to show off.
I mean, it is my trick. It's like one of the cool things that I can do. Some people have magic card tricks. Some people are just devilishly handsome. I got that dude 6'5", 240. Useless.
You'd have been hell at a carnival.
Oh yeah, big time. All right, and then after that, you're looking at JJA, who's had a big spring this year because this guy's obviously out, right? So these two have been taking a ton of reps, and then over here, obviously, is Kell, right? Kell's going to play a lot of positions this fall, or at least 2, right? He's going to play jack and defensive end based on situation. Any questions, comments, concerns?
No, that's a pretty solid room, honestly. Even JJA getting time this year, I feel like you'd feel pretty confident in just from what you've heard from spring.
What about Quintavious?
Quintavious is an outside linebacker. We'll talk about him in just a second. He is an edge rusher. He is the biggest of the edge rushers.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
So
6'5", 250? 255.
I'm just looking at it. Quintavious is listed as 6'4", 255.
255. Yeah, he big boy.
Big old boy.
Big old boy. As is JJA. JJA is probably listed at 270, maybe 280. He can be 305 by the end of the year. I guarantee it.
6'4", 275.
Yeah, 275, 280. He's going to be almost 300 pounds before he actually plays meaningful minutes, I would imagine. They just can't keep weight off the kid. It ain't like he's putting on bad weight neither.
Yeah.
Okay? Nigerian bloodlines. Let's go, baby. Let's go. They put that weight on like crazy. Easy scouting eval right there. All right, let's go on to the edge position. Okay. You got Kel. Okay. A lot of goofies on social media doing is Michael Williams going to USC? Not if you listen to the Film Guy Network, because you just found out USC be capping on their roster. Okay, they'd be out here lying to them folks. They just had a guy leave because he ain't getting his bread, and then he got his bread and he came back. That is not happening, okay? Not with the last year of college football on the line for Michael Williams. That is a 3-and-done football player, okay? If he plays 10 games this year and has 6 sacks, he's a first-round draft pick. Top 20 eval. I promise you that right now. So he ain't going nowhere, not in my mind, all right? So that's that. And then after that, you're looking at old Chaz Chamblas.
White Wolf.
Huh?
The White Wolf.
The White Wolf. I thought you said wolf. Like, ugh.
Nah.
Our fan base is doing that right now in the chat. I guarantee friggin' did.
Yeah.
And then after that, you got Damon Wilson. Okay. Damon, per Kirby Smart, got to get better on first down. Okay. As to be expected. He is listed at 230 pounds. Damon Wilson.
Damon Wilson.
He was listed in the 30s. I think he switched his number to 10 now, though.
Not number 10. I just saw his name.
35 then on that roster.
35. Yeah, he's listed 6'4", 235.
Okay, so a little bit thinner in the skin. He ain't walking around at 235, by the way. I bet he's about 231 and a half. Okay, so there's that. Then after that, you're looking at Sam and Pimba, who of all of these guys, okay, Sam's probably had the biggest offseason.
Yeah,
okay?
I was gonna say.
Sam has had people raving about his transition, or his growth, I should say, within the system. So Sam's had a really, really good offseason.
Is that a guy who gets any real burn this year, or
Yes.
is it?
He will get situational pass rush burn, I would imagine. He also might get some early down coverage snaps. Okay. Because a lot of these guys aren't going to be able to drop as efficiently because they're bigger. This is a 6'5" human. This is a 6'2" and a half human. This is a 6'5", 265-pound human.
Sam used to be a tight end, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a 5-star tight end in IMG Academy before he transitioned to an edge rusher his junior year. Went from being a 5-star tight end to them being like, hey, you're gonna out physically weigh this position because you're Nigerian. You're gonna put on way too much muscle mass. We can't have you playing tight end at 6'3", 250 pounds. We could, but you'd be Jaheim Bell. Why not try to be Von Miller? You know what I mean? So that's kind of where the transition came. And within like 6 months, you turn on the tape of this dude at IMG Academy, and he's out here like ghost moving, long arm stick, feint. Like he's out here overhand swiping. He's out here two-hand swipe. Put a whole bag together in an off season. He's that much of an athlete and he works that hard. He's had a great off season. And then after that, I would go Quintavious Johnson out of Mays. I loved the eval at defensive end. I didn't know if he was going to stay thin enough to play edge, but I am the same guy that has been on this network for years saying, 6'2", 240 does nothing for me, Bubba. I can't do nothing with it. You're too short to rush. You're not big enough to play on early downs. You're also too big to cover. So what are we doing? Okay, so you either do one or the other. You either play 4-3 and get Barrett Carter to play outside linebacker, or you're a 4-2-5, all right? And guess what? Your two edge rushers look like Michael Williams. Well, the whole room now kind of looks like Michael Williams. The whole room is being recruited like Michael Williams. Look at what they're trying to do in 2025. If you're not 6'5", 240 pounds, you are not getting an offer this year at the University of Georgia at that edge position. Uzo has made it very apparent. Length. That's what I'm going for. They just offered a kid out of Alabama, Shivers, I think is his last name. 6'6", 250 pounds. He's been playing football 18 months. Got a Georgia offer because he's big, long, and fast. Okay, so that's kind of what they're molding into at this position. Oh, by the way, specialty. Okay, Jalen Walker. That's the really difficult part about this right here. He can get home. This guy can rush. This guy can rush. This guy's a really good rusher. Okay, you can never have too many, but sometimes you can have too many. Okay? All right, let's go on to the inside linebacker room. This is really easy. Let's split it into Mike and Money just for fun, or Mike and Will, I should say.
Is that they call the Will? Money?
Well, I think they call the Mike the Money, and then they call the Willie the Mac. Make it really difficult at Georgia. I make it nice and simple. Mike and Will. All right, Mike one, CJ Allen. And he a guy. All right, the Willie one, that is Smile, but he is out this spring. So you got Raylan probably going to get the first team reps with CJ on Saturday. Mike 2, right about now, I would say is Terrell Foster.
Really?
Yeah, just off the top of my head, because this guy over here with the second group, I just had it on top of my head. Troy Bowles. I'm forgetting a name here, by the way, boys.
There's a young kid, I believe.
Justin Williams is a Mike for now because his pairing is a Will, right? Chris Cole is a Will, and he looks like a Will. He looks like Quay Walker, all right? And then over here hanging out is Chris Jones, who is still hurt. So he's not going to be available this spring. I missed somebody, didn't I?
I'm going through it right now. Don't think you did.
All right. So that's kind of how it's going right there. This guy's had a great spring. Troy Bowles. You know how I know you're having a great spring? Like third day of practice when Kirby Smart comes to the microphone and calls you out by name. You know, Troy didn't have an opportunity to have spring practice last year because Jesuit, the place that he played high school football at in Florida, did not allow early enrollees. So he was a guy that didn't get on campus until July, and they liked what they saw out of him very early on. Troy is a very interesting eval coming out of high school because the tape said, damn, this guy might even be able to play safety. He did play safety at Jesuit. Then you look at the track times, you're like, whoa, 11.2? That doesn't even play at Georgia, an inside linebacker. Well, he plays a lot more athletic than he runs, if you will. So that's been a good spring for him. CJ Allen's obviously had a great one. Terrell Foster really popped for me during the spring game last year and earned special team burn during the fall because of what he did during GDay last year. So I would imagine he's headhunting on Saturday. Look out for 30. And when you see him, you're going to be like, ooh, he's an IMG football player that walked on at the University of Georgia. He knows nothing but high-end competition and football. It's a good room.
Very good room.
Deep room. Deep room that only plays two guys. Oh, by the way, Jalen Walker, again, over here. He's going to get first down reps at Willie. Okay? He's got to get better at it, but he's going to get first down reps over there at Willie. So there's that.
Let's do corners next.
Corner or star? You want to go corner?
Corner.
All right, let's do corner.
I feel like we can go through star pretty quickly.
Yeah, we can. All right. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right.
Okay, we're not even going to do left and right. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, this for now is Ellis Robinson with a damn turbo strapped to his back, ready to just go and pass all these dudes, okay? So there's that. And then I'm going to put 2 and 3, little toss up here between Daniel Harris, okay, and Julian Humphrey. From what I've heard, okay, Harris might have had the better spring, okay? But here's the thing at Georgia that I have noticed at this position. The taller, the longer, the faster, the more likely to play. You got to know what you're doing. There's no doubt about that. But they are taking traits at this spot more than others. You know why? Because it boils down to, are you good enough and athletic enough to run and cover that sumbitch? And the rest doesn't really matter, to be honest with you, okay? Yeah, you got to be able to tackle. Yeah, you got to be able to be in the right spot. Yeah, you got to be able to make a play on the ball. But bottom line, are you big, tall, fast enough to cover the big, tall, fast guy in front of you? That is it. These two guys are both big, tall, and fast. He's been a little bit bigger, a little bit taller, a little bit faster this spring. And I know y'all don't love this guy, but the staff does, okay? They think Dalen Everett is a really, really good football player. Now, he might not end up playing here like, 100% of the snaps. He might have to play a little star this spring and this fall, okay? But that's good news for Georgia because moving this guy out of this position to the star spot, okay, on downs, on third downs, on 2nd and 12, on 1st and 15, right? Moving this guy into the nickel and allowing him to cover, all right, increases this playing time, increases this playing time. He now goes up a spot in the depth chart every time the other guy's off the field or at another spot. So I think potentially Dalen Everett having by necessity having to move into the star role at points this spring might have actually saved you a transfer portal entry because the Lord knows these two jokers have been flirting with it. I mean, to the definition of flirting with it. Hell, one guy tweeted he was in it. You know what I mean? I think Daniel Harris did too, didn't he?
Daniel Harris would join him in saying we're staying. And then Julian was the one that said, psych, I'm actually going. Psych, I'm actually staying.
A little flippy floppy there. But yeah, this has been the raving point this spring, right? Everybody knows this guy's going to be great. Any thoughts, comments, concerns?
No, I think like you said, you hit it on the head with Dale Neverett having reps at Star is going to save you a lot of possibilities and headaches from going to the transfer portal. On to the star position.
But this first. I talked to several SEC staffs, right? The bag in the SEC was that they thought Dalen Everett was dog food too. Like other staffs were like, we can attack him. And when I brought that to Georgia's doorstep, you know what they said? There's a reason why we win this conference. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not coming from Alabama, which that part wasn't, right? If it's not coming from Alabama, it's probably wrong. So, yeah, you saw a bunch of teams attack this guy, but how many teams did it successfully? You know what I mean? How many teams dominated last year offensively attacking Dalen Everett?
The only one I would suggest would be Missouri, and that was just they had Luther Burden on him a while, and very quickly Kirby was like, all right, strap Kamari Lassiter on that guy. He's not doing
it was the one deep ball.
Yeah.
It was for a touchdown, and then after that was about it, right? So, teams tried. They didn't successfully do so.
What about Chris Peel?
Don't know much. Don't know much about Chris Peel. Don't know much, honestly, about the rest of the corner room.
Gotcha.
Okay. These are the names that everybody's focused on.
Sense.
These are the names I ask about. These are the names we talk about.
Gotcha.
All right. Let's go to star real quick. Okay.
Quick and easy.
All right. You got to think one and then one on third and long. Right? The one on third and long, I believe, is going to be Dalen Everett. All right. And they might, midway through the season, against, Tennessee.
Tennessee.
They might at some point this year just go, hey, we finna be a two-man team today. We're going to put two safeties deep. We're going to put Malachi Starks at star, covering whoever's in the slot for you guys, probably that squirrel white joker. Good luck. We got to put their hands in their pockets and say, all right, let's play football. How y'all like my new defense? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So they might do that at some point. Be on the lookout for that. But I do believe Jonell Aguero is going to be the starter here. I know he's had a tough spring. Everybody knows that. Everybody's talked about it. It's been a learning curve for him as he, gets vaulted into a quote-unquote starting role. They're still bullish on him. They still think that he could ultimately blossom into what they thought he was coming out of high school, which was the next best thing behind Caleb Downs in his class. That's what they evaluated this guy as. They don't do stars. They do a different grading system. The last three classes, it was Caleb Downs, KJ Bolden, one slight step, Jonell Aguero. He hasn't quite turned into that yet. He might still do so. So there's that to be on the lookout for. And then I would honestly say the two right now is Kyron Jones. Okay. And then the three is a guy by the name of Ja'Cory Thomas, who very well, if they had to play tomorrow, might be the two there. You know what I mean? If Jonell got hurt and they needed to know for a fact that the person at that position is not going to F up, they might throw Ja'Cory Thomas out there. So a room that needed a lot more depth and a room that has seemingly found depth. We went into this spring saying, hey, who's going to be Jonell's backup? You know what I mean? That's how we talked about this position going into the spring. All right, let's go to safety right quick. Malachi is obviously out. Okay. A lot of people watching right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah, over 400.
All right. We won't do that. All right, so this is how I think they're going to start on Saturday. They'll go Dan Jackson, okay? And then opposite of him, it'll be a bunch of rotations. Okay, I think you'll get Ja'Cory Thomas to start the football game, opposite of Dan Jackson, okay? And then maybe some David Daniel-Sisavon. And then KJ Bolden. Obviously, we'll get early run and early burn here. And then Justin Rhett somewhere down here. All right. But, this happening has impacted everybody else behind him.
Right.
Okay. It's the University of Georgia. When 5 stars come in, sorry, you might have gotten over-recruited. You know, it is what it is. I'm forgetting names here for sure. Jake Pope. Jake Pope has absolutely been a winnable player for them this spring. They've been really impressed, not only from the maturation standpoint, like he's an adult, okay, he's played college football before, but just from a knowing what to do, knowing how to practice, knowing where to be, Jake Pope's a guy. So he's going to get playing time this year. I don't know if it's going to be starting roles, but I think Jake Pope's going to be on the field at some point. So that was a hit, by the way. That was a much-needed addition out of the portal. Yeah. You know, and a guy they quote-unquote missed out on coming out of high school out of Buford. I think that one, if I recall, that one was between Bama, Georgia, UNC, and Notre Dame.
Yep.
So there's that. All right, boys. Is that the roster?
Yeah, that's the roster.
Unless you want to do kickers.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I heard Henry Bates might put up a heck of a battle this
Who,
spring.
what?
Henry Bates might put a heck of a battle at the place kicker role.
Henry Bates sounds like he has a trust fund.
Good on him.
Yeah, everyone should have a trust.
Big trust funds. That would be cool, a trust fund.
I'd love a trust fund.
Chat's asking for returners. Who do we think there?
Anthony Evans. And then maybe some Dylan Bell. Dylan Bell's got experience at it already.
Yeah, Sokovy did in high school, didn't he?
Sokovy did do a lot of returning in high school. Who else? It's kind of it.
It's really it, yeah.
Yeah. But you're not a big return team anyways.
No.
You're not. You're a go back there, fair catch it.
Yeah, I mean, Kyrus Jackson was a return man.
Get us the ball.
Yeah, get us the ball.
Yep.
All right. I'm good. Y'all good?
Yeah.
Hey, GDay, Saturday. If you're in town, come say what's up. Come take a photo. Come show some love. We'll be in town. We'll be having a good time. Shout out to everybody that's watching tonight. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review on your way out. I love you. Bye. Oh, hold on.
Is he going to do it?
Hold on. So we had a AI generated song.
That's
y'all heard
what that
this?
Was?
Yeah, that was AI generated.
I didn't know it was AI generated.
Yeah, it was AI generated. I got to find this right quick so I can play it for you. Should I play mine or should I play Jamie's?
Play yours.
Play mine. I don't quite know everything that's going on in this song, but this song is titled The Chooch Chronicles, and we'll send you out tonight with this one right here. This comes from Cy in the chat, right?
It was Memer of Memes.
Memer of Memes over in Discord.
Brooks with the biggest truth you ever. Yo, this is a homie named Brooks with the biggest truth you ever seen in the books. He's a football guru, breaking down films, calling high school games, dropping bombs.
That's
like
crazy.
This. Truth on the side, he's unstoppable, tossing that
Biggest truth you've ever seen.